I believe that the internet is messing things up a little bit.
Right. Why'd you decide? You said a few moments ago that your music changed. Why'd you decide that change? What made you just move away from the underground and into your music?
I do progressive house music, vocals. I don't know how to put a name on it. I definitely don't play the Dutch sound that everybody calls the EDM sound. It's just an evolution. I'm a musician. I play guitar, produced for a long time. I started producing and making records, and then I guess I started making vocal records. I mean, that's changing, and living in Miami, and you know what I mean, being a resident in the club, and then changing the sound and everything, traveling the world. And I just adapt and change my sound. It's just an evolution of things.
Yeah. What's the Miami scene like, and how important is it in the massive appeal that mainstream culture has taken upon electronic music? From your standpoint?
Well, I mean, back in the days when I started in Miami about 20 years ago, there was house music everywhere. That was the only city in America. I think, you know, there's Chicago, obviously Detroit, few places like playing, you know, house music, and people would fly down to Miami on the weekend from New York and things to go out in nightclubs. And resident DJ in Miami, I was part of the resident, as well as Ivano Bellini, Kiko Secchi, Merck, Oscar G, and Ralph Harkon were playing house music everywhere. So people would enjoy that. The music contests, obviously. Back in the days, I would go to Las Vegas, and there would be hip hop everywhere. No house music, no club for anything, and I would show up and play. I would get booked because people from Vegas would come to Miami and be like, "Oh, let's bring this guy back," and we'd play in the club, and we'd be like 2 people. Off the strip, you know what I mean? Now it's like the whole thing changed, and it's like, you know. I think Miami changed a lot of things, and you can see now you have the underground night on Saturday night at Story, which is incredible. I was there like last Saturday, Marco Caula and Bologna. It was an incredible vibe in there. You have a little bit of everything in Miami. It's a great city, but I think Miami was a big part of, you know, the boom in America that happened, you know, dance music.
Here's the thing, and this is a question for both of us. You can start off, but now that Cedric mentions, you know, how the dance scene has grown in the U.S. and it's become so mainstream, just like hip hop was back in the 90s, you know, in the year 2000. And I guess my questions have to do with the remix, you know, and the importance of the remix in the mass appeal that electronica has acquired over the years. You know, it seems like people get to enjoy pop music when it's reworked and rebuilt and reconstructed from a DJ and a producer standpoint. How important do you think, Jamie, is the recreation of music made by other people in the mainstream appeal of electronic music, especially the one that you do?
I think that to me that is kind of two parts. You know, I was the reason I am, you know, into electronic music was I came from a very small town, a village, in fact, in North Wales, and but I was about 12 years old when exactly what's happening now happened maybe even a year or two ago in general pop music around the world, especially in America, and why, you know, EDM or whatever you want to call it is so huge was because it became in the charts, you know, whether it was, you know, David Guetta with Rihanna and all these kind of huge records that were no longer based around a hip-hop beat, that were now based around a 4/4 house music beat. Now the same thing happened in the UK with what happened in America around the turn of the 90s, you know, and it was you know, from when Danny Rampling and Pink Tom and everyone went to Ibiza in 1988 and sort of came back and started all these clubs in the UK, and the acid house movement started in the UK in the late 80s. Once that filtered down from the underground to the mainstream, pop music started becoming house music. And that happened in the UK again a couple of years ago. It happened obviously in America, and that's what creates this huge, massive generation of club kids. And I'm part of the UK club kids of the early 90s, and that's filtered through. So all my friends go into nightclubs and listening to house and techno throughout their whole teens, through their whole 20s, and that's what's happening in America now. Now the thing about you talking about with remixes is massively important. You know, one of the reasons why I believe I'm where I am is that you know, I have a band called Hot Natured, and we were one of the first for years there hadn't been a house music record in the charts in the UK, and we had a record called Benediction which broke through, and shortly after that things like Disclosure became #1 and stuff like that. You know, and everyone was doing it around the same time, but you know, we it was just part of what we were doing. And what happened, because why we started putting vocals like that and making house music like that was because we were, a few years before, we were experimenting with mashing up this kind of, I guess what it became is deep house, was what we became known for with pop music. And I used to make, I remember one of the ones I made, I used to mash up, you know, Florence and the Machine with a house beat and a like sort of a tech housey bass line. I did one of American Boy by Kanye West with Estelle, yeah. You know, we did a ton of those. Some of them we put out on vinyl only, some of them were just for us and our friends to play. But what it did was it got girls into a slightly darker, housey sound, you know, because what that does is it's just a snowball effect of actually really regenerating the scene, because at a certain point, as much as I love minimal techno, it was huge in Europe. It dominated all the clubs, all the scenes, and despite it being very interesting, forward-thinking sound, it's not that accessible to most people. It's just lots of beats, very dark, and by infusing certain elements of pop music with what we've been influenced by that over the last few years is kind of where the deep house thing that we came up with kind of came from. So yeah, definitely remixing pop tunes is vital.
Right, how about you, Cedric? You had massive success mainstream-wise with Lana Del Rey, Summertime Sadness, and you also did another song by her. I guess that's the same question goes for you. What's your take on, you know, the impact of remixing in the way that dance culture just, you know, moves out of the underground and into the mainstream?
Well, I mean, I think it's important. I mean, there's two-way, I mean, in my work, two-way to remix up, and I think a lot of major label, asking artists to remix songs that are already big on the radio, and try to get more plays on the radio and everything like that. So that's not what I'm about. That's not what I did with Lana Del Rey. It's when it came in, it was an incredible song, and I always looked for, like Jamie said, you know, like vocals to make, you know, the girl dance and something very special and do mashups and stuff like that. So when Summertime Sadness came along, I knew it was a masterpiece, a great song, and I wanted to do something. But again, I did it because I wanted my friend to play it. I wanted to do a great song. I wanted people to connect to. I didn't do it because I wanted to put it on the radio. I didn't think about selling it. I didn't think about winning Grammy with it. It was just like pure, you know, I did something and then it created a buzz. And obviously after the success of Summertime Sadness, all the major label again came and, why don't you do Chris Brown, why don't you do this? And I turned everybody down. Because if this is
did they ever, I'm sorry, did they ever come up to you and approach you and say, you know, we want you to do the Lana Del Rey version? I mean, was this like...
that's all the major label wants.
They never say that, but that's, you know, they kind of hint at it.
No, they always like, yeah, and then they're like, yeah, you know, they talk you into it. They say, yeah, well, you know, Summertime Sadness. They always do that, you know what I mean? I mean, the record did super well. We sold 8.5 million. It was like, you know, with like top 10 in many countries, yeah. So the labels, they think about money and everything. So all these artists coming in, and to me, if the song is not right, that transcends into my world, in our world, and it's not going to work, and it's going to be something cheesy just to make the money, I'm not going to do it. So I think it's important that artists think about this kind of things, you know what I mean? And then, like I said, there's two ways. Some people don't care about that and just, you know, take the money, run and do things that go nowhere. But I mean, both remixes that I did,